Jeep recommends replacing your manual transmission fluid every 30,000 miles. Now, if you're not doing any sort of towing, plowing, or just driving in extremely hot weather conditions for a very long time, you can get away with a longer change interval. But if you want to be safe, every 30,000 miles. To get this done, you're going to need 2 quarts of NSG 370 manual transmission fluid, a drain pan, a 14mm hex socket, a modified 17mm hex socket, we'll get to that later, a ratchet, torque wrench, crescent wrench, rags, and I highly recommend getting a fluid pump. Now, the first thing we need to do is remove the fill plug on our transmission. So you have your oil pan up here, your transmission sits right behind it. Now our oil fill plug sits right up in here on the passenger side of the vehicle, and we'll use a 14mm hex socket to remove that. Now the reason we loosen up this fill plug first is that way if something happens to it or we break it, we didn't already drain the transmission fluid and we're able to drive the vehicle around. If we were to do it the opposite way and drain the oil and then something happened to that plug, there's no way to fill this thing back up with oil. Make sure your drain pan is underneath this fill plug because it is possible for a little oil to come out with that removed. Next thing we need to do is drain the oil out of this transmission. We're going to do that using our 17mm hex socket, and our drain bolt is right here and it sits right behind this exhaust, so we cannot get access to it. So I'll show you how to modify this tool so we can get access. Modify the 17mm hex socket. I'm going to put it in a vise, not clamp it down or anything, and then I'm just going to beat the actual hex bit out of it. Now, even with this bit out, it is still too long to fit up behind that exhaust. So I'm going to use my angle grinder and a cutoff wheel, and I'm going to hack a little bit off the end of this thing. Now I'm going to use the modified hex bit and a crescent wrench to pull this off. Now I cut that hex bit down to exactly 1 inch long, and I am able to sneak it behind that exhaust. Remove the plug and drain the oil. Now that's draining, I'm going to go ahead and clean up both of these plugs. Now your drain plug is the one with the magnet, and you're going to want to be sure you clean all that metal off of there. You shouldn't have any big chunks, but all that fine little powder, all that's good to go. Now we can reinstall our drain plug and go ahead and wipe down the exhaust. When you go to drive your Jeep for the first time after this, it might smoke. You can also put a piece of tin foil over top of this to try to help contain that, but I'm fine with just wiping it off. Now we can use our modified tool and tighten down this plug. It gets tightened down to 22 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna be guessing on that since I cannot get a torque wrench up in here. The biggest thing is just make sure you don't over tighten it. And now I'm just going to pump the fluid into that transmission until it starts flowing out of that fill hole. Like I said, this pump makes this job much easier and a lot cleaner. I'll throw a link below to all the supplies I used in this video. So now that we got fluid coming out of our fill plug, we know that the fluid level is sitting right at the bottom of that hole. So we'll reinstall the plug, wipe everything down, and we'll torque this down to 22 foot-pounds. Time.